I got one question for y'all. Is y'all keeping that same energy? Are you keeping that same email champ energy?
He's an email champ. He's fighting because somebody mailed him the belt. How is that? Did that ever happen in boxing anymore?
Now, say what you want, say what you will. But when Devin Haney was elevated, that's all we heard was email champ, email champ, email champ. Jermell Charlo stripped as soon as he stepped inside the ring versus Canelo Alvarez. Tim Tszyu elevated. I've heard the rumblings and bumblings and the whispers. Email champ, email champ, email champ. And now here we have Jaron Boots Ennis, whom I believe is going to reign at 147 for a very long time. Are we keeping that same energy?
He's an email champ.
Let's talk about it. What up, YouTube? Big T.O. Heavy Bet Boxing TV. Man, if you don't get your big goofy ass in here and hit the bag, hit that like button for your boy. That helps the channel. You know I appreciate that love. Shout out my gang, my bag hitters. Y'all already know the count. Are you keeping the same energy?
He's an email champ.
Now listen, I told y'all before, and it came to fruition. It was the inevitable. I already knew that Boots Ennis is somebody who's been overdue for not just a title shot. Oh, at least somebody you can say, hey, he's ready for the title. You know, he's ready for a title shot. He's ready to fight the best. He hasn't even been able to get the real gatekeepers, Keith Thurman, in the ring. Nobody's been really willing to fight this guy. Now, I know all of the speculations about this, that, and the third, and how, listen, man, all of that's phony baloney. Nobody's been willing to sign on the dotted line or sent Jaron Boots Ennis any offers to fight. That's the facts. Let's keep it all the way a buck. And like I mentioned in my previous video, he's overdue. When you really look at some of the past champions who gotten their opportunities extremely early, nowhere near 30 fights, you got a guy who's over 30 fights in. He's been lurking at the top of the division for a while, and he's just overdue. He's been the mandatory. And like I explained in the previous video as well, you got to understand he's been the mandatory for the IBF belt. Spence was reluctant to fight him, just like Bud Crawford would have been. And the IBF understands this. They understand that Boots is a problem. They understand that it's obvious he's being avoided. And they was just simply willing to give him his just due. Rematch clause or not for the Spence Crawford fight. He's just simply overdue. And that's exactly what the IBF did. They said, hey, man, look at this guy here. Nobody's willing to fight him. He doesn't have a big enough name. But he deserves his mandatory shot. They're just not giving it to him. And we don't give a damn about a rematch clause. Let's go ahead and give him his shit. Let's give him his scrap. Let the Boots era begin. But listen, at the end of the day, he hasn't beaten a world champion to gain this position. He didn't beat anybody to get that scrap. He received an email today notifying him that he was the new IBF world champion at 147 pounds. Now, maybe he feels like Tim Tszyu when Tim Tszyu came out prior to the Brian Mendoza fight saying, listen, I don't feel like, he was basically saying, I don't feel like a champion. I won't feel like a champion until I beat Brian Mendoza. And Brian Mendoza for sure deserved to be in that fight with Tim Tszyu. And I always kind of looked at that fight as a fight for the vacancy, even though Tim Tszyu was elevated. And maybe that'll be the case for Jaron Boots Ennis. We haven't heard anything publicly for him yet. If he has released a statement, please put it in the comment section. I have not seen it or heard about it just yet. But maybe that's the way he feels. But now we got to look at the possibilities, because it's going to be interesting to see who is going to be willing to call Jaron Boots Ennis' name next. Now, I think it's all but a done deal for the Keith Thurman and Stanionis fight. Maybe potentially that is what's next for Jaron Boots Ennis, one of those guys taking a crack at him. I think they both, of course, ranked in the IBF sanctioning body. I know Keith Thurman's up there definitely on the WBC. You got Bud Crawford, who still has 3 belts left. He's still got to do this rematch after he washes Spence again. Maybe this is more intriguing for him for a showdown with Jaron Boots Ennis. By that time, maybe he gets to fight Keith Thurman. If Keith Thurman can get past the Stanionis, I'm not so sure that he does. But he still, I feel like, needs a scalp. Keith Thurman's scalp is perfect, but he's just been, I don't know what the hell Keith Thurman's been doing, man. You know, Keith Thurman could have helped define Jaron Boots in his status, you know, in the pecking order, had he just fought him already. But he's just been waiting and waiting and waiting for what? I don't know. And if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I think Stanionis is the WBA secondary title holder. So that's interesting in itself. But this opens up possibilities for, of course, for Jaron Boots Ennis. And it sucks now because it's coming at a time where, of course, the big dogs in terms Bud and Errol Spence more than likely both going to 54, never to return. If Bud definitely wants to do a double take and just maybe become 2 times undisputed at welterweight and see Jaron Boots Ennis with all 3 of the scraps, I think that would be extremely interesting. Other than that, 47 has kind of dried up. You're kind of waiting for those guys from 140 and 135 to get back up there, because, you know, when you really look at the landscape at 47 now, you know, it's going to be Boots Ennis more than likely, you know, if he can't get Bud Crawford or Keith Thurman defending against a bunch of guys you've never heard of. So that's interesting. And it sucks because now that the Boots era has, I believe, has begun, there's not a lot of big names at 47. And I'm not sure how willing he is to move up or move down to make some big fights with some of these other big names that, of course, the hardcore boxing and some of the casual fans would know. But email champion nonetheless, we got to keep that same energy. But I do believe, and, you know, I'm just poking fun at this point, but I do believe Boots Ennis will go on to reign at 47 for a while, and continuously show us that you know, he's a top fighter, and he'll eventually grasp and get to that clout that I think he's going to deserve. He's going to earn in the future. Hopefully somebody's willing to give him some smoke now, man. Let me know in the comment section who you would like to see Boots Ennis fight next, and what fights makes the most sense for Boots Ennis moving forward now that he is in fact a world champion. All right, that's all I got for y'all on this one, man. Big T.O. heavy bag. You know who I got with me, man. Talk to him, Roger.
Most motherfuckers don't know shit about boxing.